Gospel Radio. This is Look Up Radio, Kenya's #1 gospel radio. This is Look Up Radio, Kenya's #1 gospel radio.
Welcome back. It is Look Up Radio KE, the morning drift, and I'm your host Liza Nyango herself in studio. So today we want to talk about religious leaders in the political arena, and our guest is in studio. His name is Dr. Justus Juma. Karibu sana daktari.
Thank you so much, Liza.
I wanted you to give us a profile of yourself.
Right.
But I'm going to start you off with something somebody has sent us an SMS. We have an SMS portal. Guys, have you checked into the register? 20374. And the first question is, tumekuingiza kwa majimoto.
Right.
We want to talk about leaders, church leaders in the political arena.
Right.
And the pending or the begging question is, are our leaders our next option? Because we've been rotating leaders in the government, and it is the same script over and over again. Our president stood up and talked about how billions are being siphoned in the country every day. Kenyans are mad, but Kenyans are asking, should we dwell on the problem or look for a solution? So some of the Kenyans are concerned. Does the solution lie in church? Lakini pale kwa kanisa, ule pastor akisema pia anataka tununulie Range Rover, akiingia kwa government, will he conform or will he make changes? Dr. Juma, maoni yako tafadhali.
Thank you, Liz. It's a very good question, and actually is a realistic question with the current reality we are facing in our country. Our country is at a point where we desire and long for real change leaders, and leaders whose interests reverberate at the interests of the citizen. Leaders who are able to sacrifice on behalf of the citizen, not sacrifice the citizen.
Okay.
Leaders who can fill their citizen, not the one that pleases them, as it happens today. Servant leadership actually is modeled very well in the scriptures. Preview that there are rogue leadership all over, even in churches. So that does not really know, bringing the church or copy-pasting the church into governance does really not solve the problem of servant leadership. But the honest leadership that is we desire, if I may quote in Proverbs chapter 29 verse 4, it says, the king establishes the land by justice. The king sets in order, but he who receives bribes overthrows what? Overthrows it. In Proverbs 29 12 says, the king who judges or sets in order the poor with the truth, his throne will be established forever.
Okay.
You go ahead again in the same Proverbs. If a ruler pays attention to lies, all his servants become wicked. That is Proverbs 29 verse 12.
Okay. So I've noticed you are quoting the Bible.
Right.
And in your profile, you also state you're a party leader.
Right.
And that is what we are asking ourselves.
Yes.
So you've merged being a party leader and being in the leadership of the church.
And that's what I'm coming from, because the idea of separation of church and the state is a concept that came mostly with the colonialists.
Yes.
And when you're looking at a society, because leadership is how a society governs itself, and a society is various folds. A society has the young and the old, the youthful, the vibrant. They have talents. They have heroes here. They have they have innovators. They have manufacturers. Is entrepreneur. That's how diverse a society is. And you cannot dissect that society and separate society from itself. Actually, the art of separation was borrowed from individuals or the foreigners whose intent actually was not for the good of the society. His intent was to colonize, rule, and control what? The society.
Okay.
If you read in The Art of Making a Slave, the idea was to set the light-skinned against the dark-skinned, the tall against the short, the long nose against the short nose. Remember the wars in Rwanda?
Yes.
So this thing has been perfected to date, to a point that even when it comes to governance, they say, oh, this should be secular and this should be state. Whereas if you look for what our state or our nation longs for the most today, what do we long for? Because when you look at our constitution in chapter 6 of our constitution, where it talks about leadership and integrity, these tenets of integrity are grounded, or their foundations are in our spirituality. Whether you're a Muslim, whether you are Christians, there are certain values which can make you successful. No wonder I was quoting the scriptures, because scriptures have foundations of those values that can make a leader be effective leader. And if a leader lacks those value systems, no wonder as Justice and Freedom Party, we've enforced insisted that among our manifesto would be focusing on education system which entrench value systems.
Okay.
Because without value system, then we will not render solutions to the runaway corruptions we're having, the greenness that we're having, this rampant pleasing, and inconsiderate priorities. Like today, Kenya is in a situation where we have been ravaged by coronavirus. Our nurses and our doctors, who are actually in the front line, have become the victims with minimal support.
With minimal support?
Yes.
And that is why I'm asking Dr. Juma, if you got my question, in a nutshell,
right,
and in a response to yes or no,
yes,
should our church leaders join the political arena?
Yes, for purposes of getting just leadership, then just men must be in authority. In Proverbs 29, it says, when the wicked rule, people mourn. But when the just are in authority, people rejoice. Ultimately, what do we decide to have? We would love to have a joyous society, isn't it? Yes, please.
So you're supporting leaders to join the church. So now answer to the question which was asked by Oletayana in Micah. He's saying, your pastor is telling you to buy him a Range Rover, he wants to live lavish, and we already have malpractices in church. What do you think about that? Does that mean we'll be rotating the same problem? Like moving from one point to another in the same manner, like in the same manner, and then expecting different results? You
see, the church, as per the definition, especially your reference, may really not be a perfect canon for defining a church. The actual standard of the church lies in the scriptures and actually is void of gains.
That's what the scripture is saying. Right. That is what the scripture is saying.
Yes.
But this is a person who's telling you, when I go to church, every church has its own. We've had stories of pastors who are swindling from people, and it's not even like proof. It is just stories.
Right.
It is also a factor. Church leaders are living lavish, which is the same thing that is being compared to politicians. They're also living lavish. But most people feel, like in your statement you said, we want leaders who can sacrifice for the citizens, not sacrifice the citizen.
Exactly.
Sasa pastor akiniambia nimnunulie gari, politician ashajinunulia.
Right.
Where is the separation? Like, are we meant to believe that it's going to be different? If so, how?
Since our foundation is scriptural, let me use the scripture to answer.
Okay.
I think it's in Hebrew that says, consider those who through their conduct attain the promises, then imitate them. So if somebody's conduct is not as per the promise, because you shall judge a tree by the fruit that it bears, right? If the tree is bearing fruits that are not desirable, even the scriptures have given options.
You cut it off.
Cut it off. And as a generation, as a society, should we measure in minors? No. We have actual standards and definition of true leadership. Now, the definition of true leadership is what should inform the voters to hold their leaders accountable to and actually determine the leader whom they are electing. So whether it is in the church, whether it is in the political arena, what we require is honesty and sincerity, a leadership whose heartbeat reverberates around the citizens' interest, a leadership who we cannot support something that is against justice. You not go for somebody who is fleecing, somebody whose hand is already full with blood, whose pocket is already bursting with loot. How would you expect justice from such an individual?
Okay, but then there's the issue of conforming. You know what conforming is?
Right.
If you can't beat them, you join them. You join the political arena where the rules are not the same as the church. You join the political arena where your decisions are based on some above powers. We have seen how the country is behaving in terms of leaders who are in power, but they're saying they were never given the power 100%. And I think you know who I'm talking about. So it comes from a point of view where you'll be answering from somebody else. It comes from a point of view where I could be friends with you. You will come to my house, but I'm the one who is in power in that house. I might give you the freedom to go fetch yourself water, drink whatever you want, but at the end of the day, I am the one to tell you how to drink that water and in what cup to drink that water. You totally understand where I'm coming from.
I agree with you, Liz.
So you think you will take the church rules to the government?
A leader is somebody who can make what has not been to be.
Okay.
A leader is a change bringer. A leader is visionary. They say where there's no vision, people cast off restraint. People perish. And when a team is not performing, what do?
You cut it off.
You
fire them.
You fire the coach.
Yes. Or you fire the coach.
Coach may probably change his players, right? If a company is not performing well, who do you address?
The employees.
You look at the CEO.
Oh, the CEO.
Yes. Normally they change the CEO. And the CEO will bring what?
Change.
If the church is floundering, who do you go for? You find you change the pastor, you understand? If the country is not performing, the top CEO is?
The president.
There you go.
But
that's why I said, or the scripture said, that a leader who listens to lies, his kingdom shall not be done what? Shall not be established.
But then, Dr. Juma, we are saying,
yes,
easier said than done.
Right.
How many times have we wanted to change the president?
Yes.
Is the power in your hands?
Right.
And that's why we're talking about, will you take the same modules that you're using in church to politics in a world where they don't exist? Or are they the same? Or do you think you can make them stronger than what is in politics? You know?
If history has confirmed to us, because life is lived forward but understood backward, if I may use that phrase.
Okay.
The number of change bringers in the world, if I may mention a few. You know, you may talk of Nelson Mandela of South Africa. He did not join apartheid. If you're talking about Mahatma Gandhi, who led revolution.
Be the change you want to see in the world.
There you go. And even in the States today, you know the voice of the dream of Martin Luther Jr. And then that change, to date, we saw America having what? A black president. And we're talking about
South African Asian.
No, Hispania. This is the Hispanian's vice president.
Okay.
But Obama, when he became Obama, was, and
yes.
that is way back
Yeah.
after the dreams of the Martin Luther and the valiance of the people like Malcolm X. You understand?
Yeah.
And then if we go way back, the world has experienced various changes. In various dynasties, we used to have Roman kingdom. We used to have to Greeks. We used to have the Medi-Persians, and the person who brought a stop to Roman kingdom was a German reformer called Martin Luther, still in 1520. And Martin Luther was a passionate believer. He's a monk actually who had trained in the monastery. Then found out that the Catholicism way of how they were living their scriptural life, because then people were not allowed to read the scriptures for themselves. Scripture was being read by the priest and the father. Yet Luther thought that the scripture is like a mother's breast to the child, denying the people the reading of the scriptures is like taking away the child from sucking the milk directly.
Okay,
and
so
he encouraged, and the first person to translate the Bible from Hebrew to Septuagint, to the Germans. To date, even the Merkel is leading Christian party that was founded by Martin Luther, and that is the foundation of Protestantism.
Okay.
And that change reverberated to date until we could be talking about other religious organizations. So change has always been imminent. Even if you go back to the Bible, the life of Jesus, he did not come to join the world, but he became a light. And they became the salt of the earth, and that's what we are being.
So how about you address change and power in an environment where, yes, Martin Luther and everybody did it.
Right.
Fine, you are a party leader.
Yes.
Tell us about the name of your party.
Right.
And what change you want to bring.
Yes.
And then we'll take you to the government,
right,
where there are structures which you cannot. Unajua lazima
That's what I
uchimbe.
love to do the most, because
Yes,
that
yeah.
is where we are coming from. Our name is called Justice and Freedom Party. Justice, we borrowed it from a Hebrew word,
Okay.
Sadiq,
Sadiq.
meaning to right rights and wrongs, and to satisfy objectives.
Okay.
And once you satisfy objectives, yes, you will be able, because Scripture says, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free."
Free.
And justice and freedom. Freedom is the ability to realize your full potential without any limitation. And that is what we desire for our motherland and for our country and for the next generation. Liz should be able to realize her full potential with without any upfront. But we're living in a society where some people have mindset of being less. Remember, we are categorized as third world. Whereas where we are coming from, we don't believe in being second to none. And what limits you are policies that can be changed on education, how you raise your children. Because you know right now with your education criteria, if you go to other jurisdiction, you will be downgraded, right?
Yeah.
Why should you then stick to a curriculum that is being downgraded elsewhere?
Yeah.
You can change it, isn't it? And we have economic policies.
Okay.
Which?
I will still bring you back to the same question.
Go ahead.
What change will you take to power?
There you go. And what I was mentioning, especially on various elements, I've just mentioned education.
Education.
Yes.
You want to change the education system?
Curriculum to be a suitable curriculum that develops your talents, that develops your proper character formation. Education that is relevant to us.
To us. So you're saying you don't want that education where we were taught physics and copper and we are not using it anymore?
There's knowledge that is crafted to make us be servants who just earn a living but not able to live a life. No wonder we have engineers who are not able to innovatively construct a road. We have doctors, when we are discussing in vaccines, ours are all passive. They're waiting for other doctors elsewhere to
give it.
So you can raise doctors who are able to also be equal in the face of the world. When those other guys are prescribing and saying this is for Africa and this is for Europe, we should be having our own indigenous Africa note. And that is
I have to ask a question. I have to ask a question which I'm sure so many people who are tuned in will ask at some point. So I will interject a bit. On the SMS portal, we have 20374. We are talking about religion and religious leaders in the political arena. What are your views about what Dr. Juma is saying? Meanwhile, this was a recap because we will do this topic again. We have to break it down because from where we are coming from, this is a very huge topic that needs another hearing, and that's what we're gonna do. But Dr. Juma, before I end this particular session, because the producer is saying the producer today wants to go and drink tea early. Anyway, no, that's Mr. Boss, don't fire her. The producer is just saying we're limited with time. We want to know, all leaders come to us with a mandate, with a list of things they will do. Nitabadilisha serikali. Barabara ya huko kwenyu imechimbika nitatoa. Nitaeka free primary education. We are now on COVID and people are asking where are the 200 million masks. Because it is just the norm. You make a promise, you don't fulfill it, you leave power, and then it's forgotten, and then it is the norm. So does that mean Dr. Juma is giving the empty promises until he gets to power and then he starts showing us off his, what's your favorite car? Answer to that as you tell us about your favorite car. Listen,
I know a number of
promises. Promises.
I know a number of individuals
We've been here before.
Our track records. When pandemic hit us, as Justice and Freedom Party, we were in the forefront seeking to bridge the gap of the public and the private citizen partnership. We also went ahead, I think is a public domain. We're partnering with the Israeli government. We went to the slums. We've been giving out food, giving out masks. We've been in all the slums, supporting and standing with our doctors, even inspiring them to address this pandemic. Whereas our leaders, who actually have the mandate, some of them even nationalized philanthropy. You had to give through them. And what they were given to date, we've not seen, as you're saying, because some of them have wrong priorities. Some are talking about 2022. What? When you are the deputy president and you are the president, instead of serving us now, you're busy telling us about what?
2022.
So those type of leadership are the individuals who does not really understand they sacrifice the citizen when they need to be serving them. You have a time now.
Yeah.
Instead of serving, you are busy concentrating on issues that actually are not of today.
Okay.
Because time is of essence, as you've said.
Okay.
And when we talk about changes that we're bringing, they are diverse. We have changes on economics, we have changes on governance, in health, in identity. And then when I talk about economic changes, various policies, because some policies are just warped.
Okay.
Majority of Kenyan populace to date are agrarian pastoralists, about 75% of our population. About 25% are the city dwellers who consume science and technology. Unfortunately, the current government, the Jubilee government's economic policies is broadly based on science and technology, whose consumers are about 25%. And this science and technology foundation is founded on a premise that we are but consumers, not innovators, not even owners of it.
Okay.
Whereas majority populace of us, like by the virtue of your name, I can assume you come from the lake.
Yeah.
If the lake person was empowered to continue fishing
Yeah.
in a modern way
Yeah.
and supply fish to this market,
Yeah.
China would not be supplying fish all the way to Kisumu.
Oh my God! Is China supplying fish to Kisumu?
Exactly. And the quality of the fish that they're supplying to to Kisumu also have health issues. You understand?
Really?
Yeah, so this is issues of bad policy, bad governance and bad policies.
Hey.
If you look at the Maasais, if Maasais were empowered to remain pastoralists, and that does not mean that they're not being educated. Their education, and you will have doctorates in being a pastoralist. Because when you're talking about livestock study, it's a global study.
It's a global study.
So if you empower them, and so those are some of the things that we have been telling the government to reprioritize the citizen. And then we talk about change that we are bringing, such as type of the changes that we are going to bring on board. And this does not require going to school or some magics. All it needs is Liz, you and I, to understand the type of leadership that we have and engage our citizen in the democratic process.
Okay.
And actually, no wonder some of us went ahead and made sure that we had an outfit that we can also use to compete. Because most of the political parties are owned by individuals. They are family properties.
Okay.
So we as an individual have done my part.
Yeah.
And that's why I would invite like-minded individuals who would want to vie in such a premise. There is a room for you to be an MCA. There's a room for you to be a constituency.
Okay.
I mean an MP. There's a room for you to be a senator. There's a room for you to be a governor. All you need to do is reach out to us.
Okay.
We have our own handles. We have our own contacts. And we will give you direct nomination. We will support you so that we get that leader whom we desire and the leader who Kenya has been looking for. And I tell you, yes, these leaders are here. And thanks for opportunities like this that brings us out to make sure that the person who's looking for us can meet us.
Can meet us.
Right.
Justice and Freedom Party of Kenya, I want you to confirm to us that you will come back.
Right.
But before you confirm you will come back, there's something called to conform.
Right.
So I want you to talk about to conform when we come back. A person who's been out there and gets into a certain system will have to conform.
Right.
For example, Look Up TV is all about family, and we all have to conform.
Okay.
You know, so whether I worked where or where before, when I come here, I have to conform. And I want you to think critically about the word conform.
Right.
When a leader moves from being in church to politics.
Yes.
And I think, Dr. Juma, we will have you back. Most certainly, because I think we are not done with this topic. So if you're tuned in, what questions would you like to ask Dr. Juma? Our SMS line is 20374. We will have him back. The topic is the same, religious leaders in the political arena. I think it's getting very heated. And I think, Dr. Juma, you'll come back with another panelist.
Right.
And this particular panelist will be somebody who's now on a neutral ground, a Kenyan citizen who has studied the law, who has studied the way the church is working, and has been frustrated by the current government. We are looking out for you. Don't be afraid to reach us out. We are on on Twitter at Lookup Radio KE. Hashtag is the morning drift.
Right.
And on Facebook, Lookup Radio KE. On Instagram, Lookup Radio KE. Are you ready to be back with this topic again? My name is Liz Anyango. See you soon.
Liz amemaliza hapo.
Gospel Radio. This is Lookup Radio, Kenya's #1 gospel radio. This is Lookup Radio, Kenya's #1 gospel radio.